What I don't know if none either wants it, but I was just going to say, I think what you're failing to realize is because because the claim is that this is the best sort of moral system, for lack of a better word, for all mankind and for all times. People are looking for any period, any sort of grey area that can be exploited as evidence of immorality. So while you may say that at the end of the line there's going to be this, and there's going to be, we're going to free a slave, we're going to give reparation to the slave, all the in between is what we're like entitled to focus on. To be fair, because you're claiming this to be the apex of morality, and I feel like that's grey area in between is, in my opinion, the height of immorality. The fact that one is allowed to possess what God considers so what do you call it, unique a creation, and everyone's got an individual free will, and yet one can own another is number one an example that I believe
And don't forget, they
flies in the
that
face.
person they own can't be another Muslim though. You have to put that into it.
No, but they can in some instances. And what's even worse about some of these things is like the enemy combatant perspective, but you can also enslave the wife or child of an enemy combatant. Then you're allowed to have sexual relationships, and then the slave's not allowed to be a witness. And there's just so much within it that you have to say that, in my opinion, is the opposite of morality, and not to hold like as a political system, you could argue that it's the most revolutionary and the most civilized at the time, yeah. But then when people say, and maybe not you because you don't have a classical perspective, when people say that is the system that we should be applying to for all times, irrespective of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
final outcome.
I get that.
Yeah, no, you
I
get it.
get that. I get that criticism. I get that criticism. What I wanted to address as well was, with regards to that society, you've got you've got the norms that are prevalent. So we're talking about a very high entry point in terms of, or entry cost for a lot of these people that are, especially from the affluent as parts of society. When they're entering into this new religion and in this environment, they're having to kind of contend with the fact that freeing a slave is framed as a good thing, and the opposite, taking slaves, isn't. Nor is the owning of a slave. The owning of a slave is not seen as a good deed. Now, that is all are all statements that can be attested to, in the sense of, like, you don't become a better Muslim by owning slaves the more slaves you own, for example. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's not linked to the material in that sense. Now, slaves will be a part of that. And as I say, in this trajectory, in this direction, which I've kind of given evidence, and even in the example of war, you've got two options which end up in freedom. Ultimately, you've got a situation where, as critics as well, you've got to contend with. So and I hear you was doing that there at the end, James. But it's like the other people on the panel are gonna have to contend with the fact that, in growing up in a slave society, right, there's clear directions towards freeing slaves and an end to slave society.
But even if we accept that,